What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about John M. Chu's depiction of Wicked. There's no other way to put it. This film is epic and grandiose, and it immerses you in a way that's second to none. Based off the Broadway musical, the plot follows Elphaba, a misunderstood young woman because of her green skin, and Glinda, a popular girl, becomes friends at Shiz University in the Land of Oz. After an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroads. That in itself is a brilliant way to create factions within audiences because it creates a lot of discourse within fans in a good way. Word of mouth is one of the simplest, cheapest, and most reliable ways of advertisement for any form of media. And by no means is it a fair comparison considering how bad those Twilight films are, but the division of audiences in those films is kind of a good example of what I'm talking about. Because the more people dispute and argue which side is preferred, the more chance you have of getting people to go see the movie. 1939's Wizard of Oz is known for its vibrant Technicolor patterns as well as its expansive, groundbreaking sets that as the film goes on, it kept getting better and better. It's shocking how few movies show more than just 2 or 3 different environments, but that's certainly not the case here. That's not to say you can't have a film be set in one location and still have a great experience. Hell, The Holdovers is a perfect example of that being the case. But it's so impressive when a film can showcase and flex its set design in so many variant ways. And speaking of set design, oh my god, the set design for this film was gorgeous and otherworldly. It's unbelievable how grand and intricate this world feels, and I find that to be shockingly rare in fantasy films. In my experience, they tend to look generic or in barren wastelands, which fine, yeah, it's easier for the crew, but damn is it marvelous and breathtaking when they go this hard to show a colorful world. Especially when taking into account so much of the different and unique sets were practical. Of course, they were blended with some CGI, but there were so many actual built sets. Like the train was real, and that thing weighed several tons. The wooden statue on fire in the opening sequence was so epic. All of Emerald City was breathtaking. John M. Chu made sure to give all these fun and wacky environments their time in the limelight. And the costume and wardrobe were so beautiful and striking. Like during the school dance sequence, there was a strong element of like the roaring 20s. Like for example, the girls having the gloves or the guys having the ruffle features on their shirts. There's people in this movie basically dressed as big green ornaments with legs. There's dudes with big green long beards. I can't remember the last time a movie showed this much love to the costume design. It was just perfect. I'm such a sucker for cool wardrobe and production design that when this much love is shown to those elements, I can look past a lot of the pacing and story issues. I feel like if you're not a fan of the play, you're gonna notice that the runtime of this movie is quite long considering it's only part 1. And because there's a lot of padding, it takes a while to get to the actual conflict of the film. Like there's little nuggets of tension sparsely laid out before then, so it doesn't let it feel like a slog. And in my opinion, there's 2 very well constructed tear-jerking moments that evoke such sadness that you can't help to feel a little bit broken. The first being the school dance sequence when Elphaba's basically dancing alone with no background music and nobody's really stepping in, so it's just very much an isolated moment, and it's just so devastating, but at the same time she's so stunning and breathtaking. It was just a really, really powerful scene. And even though it felt like it took a bit to get to the actual conflict, I was so enamored with the world building and the unique look of everything and everyone that I just didn't care. And the blocking between the characters is so kinetic and just so fluid. John M. Chu really took what he was able to do within the Heights and brought that here, but leveled it up significantly. He's known for having these big ensemble casts, and it's fun enough that you could really pay attention to any of the extras and still have a good time. And it even helps with rewatch value because you can pay attention to any one of the side characters and create their own story for them. And I mean, when you have Jeff Goldblum and Peter Dinklage as supporting cast, you can't have a bad time. If you get Tyrion Lannister bringing his A game, you got a safe bet the film is gonna be real good. He's so amazing in this, I truly wish we had more time with him. He has the second tear-jerking moment that I had mentioned earlier, with the unveiling of the writing on the board. It was done so dramatically, and his voice acting along with the music was just so heavy and just uncomfortable to watch. What a performance. You feel the sadness in his voice, My god, it was so good. And I mean, Jeff Goldblum as the wizard is the equivalent in casting as Danny DeVito as the Penguin, especially with the charm and the hilarious over-the-top performances that he's known for. The casting recruiter must have gotten a raise for this. But I mean, the bread and butter of this film is obviously Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. You know, growing up, I'd seen Victorious, and I don't know, I never found Kat to be an interesting or funny character. So my expectation for Ariana Grande's performance was pretty low, to say the least. But maybe I should shut up, because damn, she's so good in this role. She's bubbly, cute, and most of all, she's so funny. And she's so vain and narcissistic, but she owns it, and you have to respect it. And on top of the fact that she actually has a very good character arc. In some ways, she kind of reminds me of Sharpay Evans. I always felt she was one of the better written characters, and I feel like there's a lot of parallels between the two. It's unbelievable how enjoyable she was, and I was okay with her taking kind of a backseat in the second half of the film, because I know in part 2 she's gonna get shown a lot more love. As for Cynthia Erivo, what a complex role to have to handle, and she takes it on so easily, and is so empathetic it genuinely hurts. She has the ability to convey so much pain and emotion just with her eyes. So many sequences involve her eyes, and everything you need to understand, you can just by looking at her eyes. I don't know, she definitely deserves her name tossed in the mix for an Oscar nomination with how good she was in this role. One of the things that I think this movie did best outside of its performances was that while it kept faithful to the play, what with the sets, the colors, and the musical aspect, which was great, I think it still stayed cohesive as a film. It still felt organic, and the progression of the story still moved forward in a way that a movie would. Especially because as colorful and wacky as this movie is, it actually gets quite dark, and that shift never feels misplaced or like it doesn't belong. It's very well done. And my god, does it earn its grand ending. It's chilling with how powerful it was. I think my only complaints are that Nessa is kinda useless, and there was potential for letting her and Elphaba work on their tenuous relationship, but didn't. And that Dr. Dillamond getting booted as soon as class starts felt so plot convenient and unnecessary. And unfortunately, I know this is part of the play too, but honestly, I wouldn't have been mad if they tried to tweak the story to have a stronger narrative. These two issues stand out for me because in a part 1 adaptation that's the entire runtime of the entire play, I would have thought they would be able to really flesh out and really work on things that would have brought more drama and tension. They're not detrimental by any means, but they were like the only things that I couldn't help but think about. And there was definitely enough drama in the rest of the film to keep you invested. And the Stanley cameo by Idina Menzel was some nice fan service. And there was that bit where the old Glinda and Elphaba kind of like have this touching moment where they caress the new versions of them, kind of like saying, I'm passing on the baton, it's your turn now. I'm of the opinion that this type of film has the charm and beauty that can win over the most cynical types of viewers. It's no secret, Wizard of Oz is one of the most influential and celebrated films of all time.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Hell, I'd argue it's easily in the top 5 most recognizable titles. But I think it's not outlandish to say that this film earns its title and by no means should be looked at as a disgrace or as a disappointment. It showed plenty of reverence for the material that came before it. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.